Closest green dot.
I knew they were going to try to build one so they could big enough to put later when we would have office space with the offices and the bottom floor. That kind of thing. I was not sure which. That didn't work.
Toughest thing is once you get something down, then you start.
Right. So I appreciate your original stand. I'll modify.
Well, what I have is,
We do a little tweaking and improving.
I'd rather not do it before I respond. Calls.
You know, I was just more from a county standpoint. He got halfway through quick. We would have somebody where to fall back on and finish.
Well, that would be big. We have to find somebody.
Yeah.
That would be all me.
But with this guy,
Have him work. It's a several projects.
but, you know, I was just, like I said, I was just trying to, you know, the county work for $1,200,000 supposed to have to make it in performance. That was all I was doing. Like,
It's probably going to be. This is giving me a number. Just not on
yeah, we'll work on something like, you know, we're going to do, and all of a sudden, you depart, their way, you know, there's more than one way to skin. I have no idea.
The Mormons come. The bid is $100,000. Now there's difference between or
How much you pay your bond?
oh now
Yeah, I know, the bond would be exactly that, but whether it's, we're talking about what it costs.
I think it probably has a bearing to the rating of the company.
That's why.
If you were micro would be $100,000, it would be $99,000.
Speaking of moon, did you have
Yeah. I'll give you them. He created his own problem, you know, about what he did there.
Okay. All right. Mark that down. Joey, how are you, sir? Good to see you. Ready. All right. get this work session underway. The purpose of this work session is to review our SPLOST status. Just a few preliminary comments. We've got SPLOST funds still available that go back to the 1999 SPLOST. And I don't know, there may be valid reasons, but we need to find out. Those should have been used. A couple of other things that do concern me. When we enter into a SPLOST agreement, we have to publish as part of the process leading up to it and as part of the actual verbiage in the SPLOST, the uses for those funds. Now granted, they're broad categories, which give us as much flexibility as we can get, but we cannot overspend, not by a penny, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Counselor, but we cannot overspend by as much as a penny, supposedly, on any one of those categories. We have looked at expenditures for the various SPLOST, and some of them, it appears to me, we have overspent, which that's on the county. We should not do that. We should have enough control where whoever is monitoring that, if we get an invoice in and it takes you 15 cents over, I'm sorry, that 15 cents, if we got a SPLOST the next year, that 15 cents kicks into the next year. Or if it doesn't, then we're going to have to take that out of the general fund. It has been a frustration for for all of the commissioners, frankly, as to what do we have left. We get different numbers each time we look at it. I know the cities are confused to some degree because they don't really know what's left. And there should be some mechanism. Number one, the city should be aware of how much they're supposed to get and monitor it, but we should always also be doing that. And so I think what I wanted to do, and what the other commissioners want to do, is once and for all, let's review the SPLOST. Let's see where we are. If we need to make corrections, which I think we will have to make, Counselor, we need to make those corrections. We then need to communicate the final numbers to the cities and to the other, any departments or whatever not, so that we've got control of SPLOST. It's not vastly out of control, don't get me wrong. And several of the things where I think we have overspent, a subsequent SPLOST also addressed the same issues. So it's an easy matter of rolling those over. It's a bookwork kind of thing. But we need to have it all in order and legal. And so the purpose of this work session is to review where we think we are, ask questions. If there are additional things we need to look at, let's do that so that we can hopefully within a fairly short period of time, and by that I mean certainly within the next 30 days, have a definitive answer and have every confidence in the world in it, exactly where we are, so that we can then notify the cities and ourselves be aware of where we are, and if there are funds still remaining that cities haven't utilized, they need to be aware of it so they can utilize it. There is no reason, in my opinion, for us to have, we have 4 SPLOST currently open, 99, 04, 09, and 2014. There's no more, hasn't been any more money coming in 1999 SPLOST in 15 years almost, 10 years on it anyway. So we need to have this and know where we are. And the purpose of this meeting is to do that. Going over some of the preliminary work, I've got some questions, but I think we need to put this out and be in the open about it and fully vet this thing so we can at least move forward with full knowledge of what we have left to spend or what else. So with that, I'm going to open it up. Greg, I didn't know whether you wanted to start this off.
I can go ahead and run through. I want to start from the 99 and look forward. I also gave you that you didn't have previously. This is a SPLOST history. It has a little bit better level of specificity on the 99 SPLOST, some of the other ones than just the balance sheets do. On the 99 SPLOST,
Let me make one comment before you start.
Yes, sir.
Because, and I'll look at this real quick. What did not appear, at least, or if it did, I did not understand it, on the part that was in our packets. Do we know exactly how much money was collected for each of these SPLOST, the ones that are over with? I don't think that shows on here.
no, it doesn't, and I would have to do some homework on that, and I know some of them were under-collected.
Yes.
But what I was working off on is basically what's available now, and
Okay.
using that up. On the 99 SPLOST, they actually did overspend in several areas, and there's also funds available in some areas. Courthouse expense is spent out. Water expense is, on the 99, water expense is spent out. Fire trucks was actually.
What do you mean by out, then?
It had a budget of $830,000 for the original allocation, and it spent $841,000 and change, so that's, I figure that category is finished, that project's finished. I'm going line item by line item. The water expense has been fully expended. The fire trucks was overexpended. The parking lot has a balance of $192,000. That project is complete, so I would suggest striking that project and moving those funds. Am I okay on that, Nancy?
Yeah, I got something to say about that too.
Okay.
I think we need to, every one of these, we need to discuss them and see where we go. But, yeah.
Let me go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead
Finish
through
those.
99.
Radios was actually overspended a little bit. SPLOST for Page Park is spent out. SPLOST for the cities is sitting at, I understand what Jamie did right here is a balance of $69,714. Of that, $61,000 and change is Pine Mountain for their gymnasium renovation that they really didn't do a whole lot of, and they're trying to do related expenses to spend that money down. I talked to the mayor about it, but at a certain point, I think you can cut that off, but that's not for me to decide.
I mean, I had a discussion with him the other day, and that they are behind. Which wasn't his fault. But I mean, basically they are, in the next, it's going to take them about 2 years to get through the rest of it, but just strictly because of getting their labor force to be able to, do it.
Or they get bid out to be done. So yes, I did that. So, but that money's, we know where the majority of that money's sitting. And then a majority of that didn't get funded is the roads that had over $5 million allocated, but was only $3.3 million spent. And then the Mountain Hill SPLOST, you have $125 left. I would strike that one as well. But there's some stuff on the parking lot that I'm not aware of. I know that originally that was going to be a parking garage. Money got reallocated and other stuff. So I don't have a full history on that. So I don't know really the availability of funds, but I would, from my perspective, any funds that are available there, would like to switch to roads because that's where we need money.
From what, and I can pull my files out and I didn't have a chance to get them all out, but let me say going in, you're bound by what you advertise to the public is how you're going to use this SPLOST money. And, if you use it for one thing, or say one thing, you can't turn around and use it on opposite solely on another. Now,
what I'm saying though is the category here is vastly underspent.
yes.
So if you're not going outside of the category, you're still within a
It's supposed to, the roads were supposed to be the catch-all.
Yeah, that, and Greg may not be aware of that. We always put extra in there because if you didn't, and you collected everything,
Then you stop.
then you had to stop the SPLOST. So we knew we were always going to be
I know it's a catch-all, but we also catch hell.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, roads was the catch-all
Yeah,
on these,
but
yeah.
this one was something that made my palms sweaty, but, the parking, there was, I think, $1 million put in here for a parking deck out here, and we got looking at it and figured out that, like you could get 290 parking places.
Same number.
Yeah, for $1 million plus dollars. We could go out there and redo that parking lot, lay it out right, and you could get within, I think, about 20 parking places for $250,000. But at the same time, the radios, they were gonna buy radios for all the deputies and whatnot, but there was not some sort of transmitter or something so they could talk to one another. So I did some research and found that there was some case law to support the fact that you can't, it's not, the courts say wasting money on something that is totally useless is wasting tax dollars and money. So we were able to, by resolution, to change that parking lot. We got the same number of parking places. Take the extra money and roll it over into these radios, because unless we put them in the radios and bought this extra equipment, the radios that we were buying were totally useless, because they wouldn't talk to one another, much less everybody. So that's where there's some adjustment that's gonna have to be, kind of rolled over in some of that, and that's the reason it looks like the radios were there, and that's the reason it was overspent by $19,000 trying, and the budget to start off with for radios was not that much. It was considerably less, but by the time you had to put a transmitter in there, which we were able to get from the other fund, and to then so that everybody could talk to one another, then it made that project useful. So I've got there's some history on that as to why that was adjusted, but generally you got to spend it on what you say. You tell the public you're going to spend it on.
One, I didn't suggest that it goes to anything but what's available,
Right.
but I would like to, I know we can use that 194,000 as available, besides what's already pledged to the city, but we can definitely use it for paving dirt roads.
Yes.
So that's one way I want to get some direction to staff is, okay, this is where we want to go. And I can move on to 2004, you can have more discussion
I just
about.
have a question, just because I'm curious,
Okay.
it was before my time. What was the $100,000 for Mountain Hill for?
Probably to renovate the,
Library.
The old building? I was just curious, I didn't know.
I don't mind moving ahead with that, but I think,
we need to get
Let me
the
get
SPLOST
that.
resolutions and see what we're supposed to be.
Well, that's what this is.
I think, I think we almost have to say, all right, let's deal with 1999, let's see exactly where we are, where we've overspent, let's correct those moving forward, if there are areas where we can move it forward and take expenditure. So then we know where we are at 99. Do we have any funds left? I don't know, I think we almost have to walk through SPLOST by SPLOST. But we can go ahead and discuss these, but I think that may be the way we have to approach it.
Well,
Let's go back to that square
As
one.
I'm understanding it, with all commitments met, including the city projects, we would have a fund balance available of 194,000, which then can be used for roads. Plus the $125 from Mountain Hill, since it's finished, can go into another project.
I know we don't have Mountain Hill going forward. Courthouse expenditures, we went over there and probably shouldn't have.
Line item by line item, do we need to then kind of reimburse or something and adjust?
I think so, to be legal, we cannot overspend, period. I mean, that's against the law.
Well, then what we would do is, if I'm understanding what you're saying, and would have to get some outside help on this, is basically if we spent if the original allocation was $830,000 and we spent $841,000, then we would need to change the allocation to $841,508. Is that what you're saying?
No.
I don't think you can.
No, it stays at 830, and that over expenditure of $14,000, if we had a future SPOS that had courthouse in it, it could be rolled to that as a debit there. If not, then we're gonna have to, and I will, John can correct me this, I would think we're gonna have to say, okay, we spent the 830,000. This 14,024 has got to come from general fund or something like that. It cannot come from the SPOS.
Now, that
Period.
makes sense.
But
I
then
mean,
you would,
yeah, that makes sense.
but then,
That's what
if
we have
I'm
to do.
understanding it, then you would have to roll in 50, you would have to roll 150,000 into,
Yep.
out of the general fund into SPOS, and then you would have to turn around and spend whatever that balance is on uncompleted projects, so you had to finish the road.
I think the overspending of 115,000 on fire trucks, I think we do have that in the next SPOS, and in 2009 SPOS for EMS or you know, those kind of services. So I think we might be able to roll some of that into those. The same thing, the little bit over on the expense for the cities, that you showed 1,000 over, that's obviously would roll forward to the next SPOS too. So I think some of those are easy fixes. Some of them are not. The expense for the courthouse is flat and over expenditure, and we're gonna have to pull that out of somewhere else. And you know, in the instructions to our finance folks, moving forward, when we get our new finance person, they're gonna have to clearly understand that, and they gotta be the keeper of that. And when the SPOS item, when they get to the last penny, that's it. There can't be any other expenditures in that SPOS.
I don't know how you, I guess just error, but I don't know how you, FY 2015, you overspend by 11.5, and then current year expenditures are 644, if we're already overspent. How did we end up overspending current year?
That
I
was,
don't-
Anyway, so yeah, and I think that's one of the things we need to know is how much was actually collected. Obviously, everything but roads was probably collected, so they had that much money, and then the roads is capped at whatever the rest of the money was to give you that expenditure. And that's the amount we cannot go over either, in total, as well as line item by line item. So, yeah, we're gonna have a lot of adjustments to it. And I'd rather do them now before it gets muddier.
okay, we'll go on to,
Actually, I think originally, didn't we talk about this a couple of years ago, and that we were going to take the overage out of the general funds?
You're not supposed to have any overage.
No,
You're talking about for-
what would be overage, what you went over
Would have to come out of general
would
fund.
come out.
Unless it was in,
Yeah.
unless it was in a future SPOS, and then you could certainly do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know whether we probably did discuss that, because that was a possibility. I think it's time to get control of it.
I
Okay.
agree.
All right.
2004, we're in much better shape. We do have a SPOS overage to the cities of $8,100, which we could actually take out. Well, we can't go backwards and take it out of 99, but we do have it going forward. We have to figure out who that's to. And that's really the only overage we have. And then we just want to, as far as reallocating the funds that we have available, or specifying that, John has put in a proposal for $174,000 of material, of equipment and work that needs to be done to finish up Pate Park. And if we went ahead and said we're gonna spend $180,000 there, There's $9,400 in ED money. Would like to go ahead and use on the Hamilton Business Park water line. What I'm trying to do is use these up on legitimate projects there. And then fire EMS, depending on what we find out on the other, put that money toward, we didn't put in this last one, a rebody for an ambulance, and we need to allocate, I think, that money towards, it's about $150,000 to rebody an ambulance. I would like to set aside that money to rebody an ambulance, if the commission agrees with that.
Don't we need to, or can we put that on the 99 overage?
Well, I don't know, we may already be good on the 99 overage, but if we're not, then yes, that would we would have to take that money towards that.
Can you go backwards like that?
No, we're going forwards from the
I know,
99
but
overage to the next slot.
Well, I'm not, I think once you get all the projects completed, then, and you've got $100,000 left over, then you have a catch-all, which is roads. It goes to roads. So everything should be spent out on that as opposed to rolling forward unless there is some continuation.
I'm just wondering if that might, I mean, that was my answer to getting where we'd overspent. If we still had some in the next SPLOST, we could roll that forward into that SPLOST.
Yes, I think you probably could.
And probably that, but yeah. But the dilemma that, and you're alluding to it right now, Greg, we're talking whether you'd like to take this money and do this. We don't know yet until we do this exercise where we are, whether we've got the money to take. And I certainly don't want to, maybe we do, and if we can prove with certainty that yes, we do have that money that we can spend for Pate Park and whatnot, well, then okay. But if we're not sure of that, we certainly don't want to overspend it now.
Yeah, but my other issue is though, with what you're saying as far as going into a future SPLOST, you would have to go into the future SPLOST in that same category.
Exactly.
That's why I think Pate Park is open game.
It may be.
And we can go ahead and do that, but
What do you mean open game?
it was not over encumbered in the previous
Right.
SPLOST, and it's not, can't be encumbered by any of these other lines.
You're okay through 99.
So it's good, is what I'm saying. And again, economic development is not encumbered either. Fire maybe.
Even Pate Park 2004 SPLOST.
That's
If
what I'm
these
looking at.
numbers are correct, you've still got $281,000 to spend.
Correct, but I'm saying, if John can complete it with what he's saying is just shy of 180,000, then let's reallocate some of that money to roads where we need it for doing the dirt roads.
Now, can we take an overage and put it there to a different line item? I thought.
Yes,
Yeah.
because you're talking about the overall SPLOST, and there's a whole lot more money sitting unallocated. You know, you were supposed to spend 7.1 million, and you only spent 6.2 or 6.3 million. So this disparity in that line item is much more significant than it is in Pate Park. But you only have $358,000.
Once a project has been completed, and it comes in underneath the funds, and then we have to say, all right, there's X amount of money left. We can designate those if they're not already designated. Most of ours designated them to overage for roads. So then I would think then that money that was left from the project then goes into the roads within that SPLOST.
Right. And
So
then-
you can't just move it forward.
Right, it has to go towards roads only though,
Yes.
because that's the way it was
Yeah,
designated.
it's
in the
a
SPLOST.
catch-all. What you do is you go in and the budget is more than you think that you're going to, your estimate for tax collectors. Because once you have 5 years or the dollar amount, and once you maxed out on either one or both, the SPLOST stops at that time. And so what you would do is you always, have a catch-all category. so that if your collections exceed what you have estimated on the specific projects, it rolls into that. Now, a lot of times, it will not, you won't max that bottom, that last category of roads out. But you've got all the tax money you're gonna ever get for this SPOS, and it goes in, if you're short on roads by you know, $100,000 or $1 million, that SPOS is over with, and then you start looking at the next SPOS.
So what may be left over from, say, Pate Park, the only place we can put that money is roads.
Supposedly, yes.
Yes, and that necessarily, depending on how you look at it, that money's not necessarily left over from Pate Park, because we didn't get the full amount from the SPOS.
No, I'm just saying if the bottom line ends up being, for example.
And part of my motivation here is to get the money off the books for projects that are needed. So that's why I'm suggesting what I'm
That last
suggesting.
statement you made, I don't know if I understood you, it's not correct.
Is that-
Pate Park, the monies that we had put in the projects for everything, those were definitive numbers. It's not a matter of sharing it. If you were 10% under in your collections, all of them take a 10% hit.
No, I'm not
Those
saying-
were definitive. The only one that was flexible was roads. And it wasn't flexible in the last one.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Pate Park is complete. If $180,000 is complete for Pate Park, then let's go ahead and allocate that other $100,000 to roads. If 280,000 is what it takes to finish it, then 280,000 is what it takes to finish it. But we keep going on and on and on with some of these projects.
Yeah, and I think that's good. Makes it even more confusing, and we need to
Trying to close the door.
Okay.
And then if in 5 years Pate Park needs, or 4 more years Pate Park needs some more stuff, we'll put it in the SPOS again.
Okay.
Not trying to-
All right. Okay. So 2004 looks like we're not in such bad shape.
No, and in 2009, we're fine. And everybody's is whole, and we still have about 2.7 million to spend on roads, which we're gonna
Can
need.
we go back to 2004? It says, first section, it says SPOS receivable of $6,800.
I don't know what that is, and I don't have a accounting guy to ask you.
I think we probably need to know that. That's
I'm
receivable.
assuming it's interest.
You need to collect it.
Yeah, well, it may be that it's sitting in CDs as interest. I don't know, but you're right. We need to find out what that is. Certainly shouldn't be anything collectible from the 2004 SPOS at this point in time, unless it, so, you're right.
I have a question, when you have appropriated funds, those are, you already know that that's what the bill is going to come in as?
No. When you look here,
Yeah.
in this definition, this is what was in the referendum saying,
Yeah.
we're gonna spend X amount of dollars, and so that's what that appropriated line is. If it says we're gonna spend $1.5 million on the library, then once we spend $1.5 million on the library, even if it costs $1.8 million, you stop at $1.5 million.
I realize, but, well, I guess what I'm not understanding is the column over here saying appropriated funds.
Oh, okay. That is, he's committed those against, what he did is go ahead and commit those. If we've spent $100,000 on the walking trail and there was $150,000 allocated, he'll spend out the $100,000 and then he'll put, now this is in the later ones, not the earlier ones. Well, I guess it goes from 2004 on. This is dedicated to that particular project and can't be touched for another project. So he basically has said,
Encumbered funds.
encumbered funds, but it's not, it doesn't have a contract on it to spend the money, it's just, this
It's
is.
just a balance, and, okay,
Yes.
it's just a balance then, okay.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
Got it.
And then 2009, we're doing pretty good.
I have a question about
Yes, sir.
In general, we have about $8 million total out in SPOS
On where?
on all of them put together, 8 million,
Don't think we have that much, no.
4, 5,
2000.
basically 5. And for the other two, that's almost, well, it's under 2 million,
And we have,
that's 7, and that almost is up to 8.
Yeah, but, yeah,
But my question is, why isn't a portion of that put in CDs?
some of it is,
According to this, none of it is.
but I know some of it is.
Well, 200,000 is all on our.
And what I'm going to bring before you at the next meeting, and been working with the consultant we have review our program. There's a program that we are not taking advantage of called the General Georgia Fund 1, that a lot of the governments in the state, I think it's got about 25 billion in it, I think, somewhere around there, which gives you actually a higher rate of return. It's more liquid, but it's not guaranteed. It's managed by the state of Georgia. It's the Georgia's fund. That's where the state keeps a lot of their money, which would, rather than go all CDs, because CDs have if we project out, like the library, we know it didn't get funded this year in the legislature, so maybe we should go ahead and put in a 2-year CD. That would be wise for that, but you usually have a limit of insurance of $250,000, so you would probably want to break it up in those. But this Georgia fund,
Actually, if you put a bank has to guarantee it. 110% is what I was told.
Yeah, but you can't put it all in the same bank.
No.
You
Yeah.
have CDs.
Just move them around.
so there's several ways that we can allocate our money better. And I think this Georgia fund is one way.
You said the state manages that.
The state manages it. It's got a lot of its money in there, a lot of counties and cities, school systems. That's a huge pool of money.
The legislature has, over the years, has a list of approved investment projects or a list of investment funds that you can utilize them for. And I think that is on the approved list.
Right.
Of it, so.
And they typically run, I was looking at a certificate of deposit today that we're looking at renewing, and it's at 0.5% interest, not 1%, half of a percent. And the Georgia fund is running at 1.5%. So you got a full percent higher in return on it. But been doing some homework on it and want to have our ducks in a row. I will go ahead and if you want, send the information out to you so you can research it over the next 2 weeks before I bring it back.
There is some protection by using those state approved funds. You could go out and buy some real property in Idaho if you wanted to. But you lose the money, then all of a sudden you look at breach of your fiduciary responsibilities, and you're looking at it coming out of your own pocket. But with these state funds, there is some protection that these are approved investments, you know, and that so that if the market fluctuates, everything fluctuates with it. So, you know, there it is. It's usually wise to invest your public funds in state-approved funds.
Greg, the fund that you're talking about, is there a limit on how much we can put in?
I don't think so. I've been only researching it for a couple of days. But the biggest advantage of it is over a CD, besides the rate of return, versus if you get into a 2-year CD, then you're getting competitive, but it's liquidity. You know, you can have $5 million in there, draw interest from it for a month, turn around, pull it out, is my understanding.
You can do that with local banks too. Some of them have that arrangement.
I'm not sure local bank is gonna give you a percentage, but then I
Yeah.
maybe a quarter of a percent.
Okay, then going to 2009, we're actually 2009, 2014, we are in good shape in all of them. It looks like we should have about 2.7 million to expend on roads from 2009, where we had allocated 10.7 million. At least we came out with some funds available to that. All the cities' projects were made whole. I do have one issue on the cities, and that's specifically Pine Mountain, and we need to decide how we want to address that issue when we get, I guess, into the 2015 swath. may want to pay down some of the TIA SPOS, because we're in the negative on TIA SPOS right now with the amount of roads we did last time, this time, and we're paying it back, we're paying the general fund back. We may want to turn around and reduce that margin by some, with some of that SPOS money, just to get the general fund balance unencumbered, but to free up future years. Or, I mean, we've got the SPOS money to spend.
That's a possibility. I mean, we certainly, if we do have overages that we have not spent under the roads, we can certainly spend that on some of the, what we plan to do with TIA SPOS. I kind of feel like sometimes we're shooting in the dark right now. I want to know where we are, and you know, I mean, we say we're okay, and I'm sure we are, but I want to also be able to sit down with the cities where we have a balance and we say we're okay, but let's make sure that we jive with what the city's records
Well,
are
and
also.
the city of Hamilton, and we've had a discussion about
Yeah.
if they were complete with the walking trail, and because they haven't had an activity for a year, but they have another project they want to finish. So I know that money needs to remain allocated to them. We can't use it in another place. So that was the city of Pine Mountain, Hamilton have outstanding projects, and there's, I think, some money left on Waverly Hall's renovation of their city hall facility that's outstanding, but then it also rolls forward into the 2014 SPOS.
Well, I think there's some valid comments made. Commissioner Woods, certainly we ought, if we've got $2-3 million sitting around, it ought to be invested, even if it's not drawing anything. So I think we should take you up on your offer of providing for us some explanation on these programs, so that we can have an intelligent discussion on that. And I don't know what should prevent us from dealing with the 1999 SPOS and closing that out one way or the other, and doing what we have to do legally, because some of those funds may move forward, some may go into roads that make them immediately available. But, you know, that one at least we get off the books, and then we're a little bit better off as far as being able to know where we can go in the future.
And then just quickly on the 2014 SPOS, if we can continue generally on the same, bringing in the same amount of income we've been averaging lately, we should generate above our designated projects, probably if all things stay the same, $800,000. But we know that commercial businesses are continuing to expand in Harris County, and the economy is improving, so that's kind of almost pessimistic. So I think we're going to do reasonably well on funding everything that you provided in the 2014 SPOS, including some of those other projects as far as roads and debt reductions and things like that. So that, and we also may still haven't got an answer from GDOT. I've kicked it up a notch as far as the AWAS to the individual we've been working with as far as getting the FCC and FAA clearances. He's going to talk to somebody higher up the food chain than I have about hopefully offending anyone. Because I just flat out haven't gotten, in 2 weeks, have not gotten a return phone call or a return email from our GDOT person for everyone. So, but if we get that funded anywhere from, if we get it funded at 90%, then that frees up another $80,000 there. One issue that if I can bring up quickly with Pine Mountain, and they under budgeted for what was done. Well, they didn't necessarily under budget. What happened was they had a projection for using their LMIG money and asked for specifics roads to be done, but they were only asking for 1.5 inches, and the word get to the contractor, it was a comedy of errors. That the week they got up there to pay, their public works director was out of town, so that line of communication didn't get communicated. So they milled roads and they also paved them at county specifications instead of city specifications. Bottom line is we billed them $132,000 and they had budgeted for about $59,000.
Which are you looking at for that?
You don't have that.
Oh,
I'm wanting to get some direction from the commission on, and Nancy did some research on the minutes of the SPLOST, and it said that we would assist the cities in paving within the cities through the SPLOST. However, there was not a specific line item for Pine Mountain, and there was for some of the other cities, so. I'm not sure.
When was the paving?
It was done when we did, Harris and Mayo.
They did some here in Hamilton.
Just
And, Pine Mountain.
within the last couple of months.
So we're at a quandary there. We need to have a negotiating session.
Sounds like $5 those give us some money.
Yeah.
Part of it's their fault, and part of it's our fault. Their public works director, I guess, had something already committed, so he couldn't be around when it happened. But they basically come hand in hand. I guess we could ask them to give up their $60,000 for the SPLOST.
Yeah, I think we need to have some discussion with it. But that also points out that, and I certainly don't mind paving roads for the cities, and I think it makes sense to do so. But I think we need to have a firm understanding as to what specs they're to be paved to.
And I think having an engineer on staff is going to resolve some of those issues going forward.
What did the contract call for?
We use county specs.
What?
We use county specs on the roads.
The public works director went to all the roads and determined what needed to be done, and that's how we spec them. And that's how it was bid and left. Apparently, there was
But
confusion.
they had spec 1.5 inches and we did 2 inches.
It was a county bid, so the county specs that carried here.
Yes.
Whereas what should have happened was we should have said, all right, these roads are county specs, this road is to this spec, this road is to that spec, and you're different.
sounds like this what was done. What was it, county that pointed out?
It was all one project, and we had it all spec'd out according to what was known. I don't know whether it was 1.5 or 2 inches. I can't tell you. what
We
did.
had spec 2 inches. Because
Did the city-
we
did the
have a
city
lot
have
of
city-
trucks driving on our roads.
Mr. York met with the people with the city when he did those specs.
Did the city have an opportunity to review the specs and approve them?
I don't think so, but Mr. York met with them to determine what needed to be done.
And I don't even know whether it was discussed what the specs should be.
Yes.
Only with the bid when it was bid,
Nothing was said.
not that I know of.
I'm gonna get with Mr. York and see what the conversation was and see if it's,
He provided me everything in writing, so I have what he came up with. Whether it shows 1.5 or 2, I can't tell you right now. We can check into it and see what it was.
Yeah, we need to know whether that discussion was had about difference in specs.
I just wanted to make sure that you knew that was out there and we're gonna have to deal with it one way or another. And I did talk about that briefly, but I guess it would be good if, we can't approve it now in workshop, but if you can approve it in concept.
Okay, I have an issue, I'm not an issue, but I have
Okay.
something that I need to bring up on John Magazu's request. I've been contacted by a group that would like to, partner with the county as far as batting cages go. They are willing to do fundraiser to to help with some of the cost of the batting cages. They sent me the drawings today, sent them to John. It's a little bit more than I think we really need. The main thing they want to know right now is if we would be willing to partner with them. I've already talked to John about it, and John said that they can raise those monies, much like we did with Elderslie Park. Those monies can be donated to the county, and those batting cages could be built to county specs. But we do have this, I have no idea how much they're looking at raising. I don't think they've gotten that far. It's just that they're willing to do that.
Is this in addition to the 3 batting cages?
That would be,
show up
that
here?
would, there would have to be some negotiation.
If they put that up, we wouldn't need the 3 additional batting cages.
Okay, I think, certainly I'm not gonna turn down
And
the
I don't,
opportunity of citizens
right,
to
and I
pitch in.
don't, right, and they had a certified contractor, they said would come in and build the batting cages, but I think there needs to be further discussions on those, don't you,
I
John?
agree that John needs to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
I really believe that the
Absolutely.
money needs to be donated to the county, let the county do it, because you always run that risk of
And-
somebody coming in, putting it in, it's defective, somebody falls on it, it's playground equipment, it collapses, and then all of a sudden you've got a lawsuit.
And they're not averse to doing that, I don't
Right.
think. But we're just, as I say, they just approached me on my way to Lake Lanier Islands last week for training. I get this phone call. So there needs to be a lot of talk, but the main thing they wanted to know, if they could do this, and would the county be willing to help? And I explained to her that it would probably be, the best scenario would be, just as John said, is to donate that money to the county.
Okay. I certainly think we should say, yeah, we'll discuss
Okay.
and meet with them. This is Pate Park only.
Yes,
Because John mentioned that he's got 3 batting cages, but then he says
Correct.
additional should be done at Moultrie. So you.
Well, my idea is anything that we do with paid out of Splash,
Okay.
we're gonna have to budget for Moultrie, so we have the same.
All right.
And I don't think, they originally contacted me about the batting cage, they asked about 2 covered batting cages, but when we got the drawing today, they're enclosed batting cages.
and that's,
And all I asked, they asked if they build it, if we could put the nets up, we'll supply the nets, which is an inexpensive proposition for the county, but when you see the drawing,
it's just, it's a bit more than I think.
oh yeah, way
But
back
they
more.
just need, we need to have some conversation with them. And the other part of that is that the other idea we came,
Yep.
that we came up with is possibly if the county built the batting cages and then they could raise the money for the cover and the lights, they would not be indoor batting cages. And they said they're open to that too. So there's just a lot of.
I think we ought to have that discussion.
I don't think we should turn anyone down, especially any of our citizens that want to be involved.
No?
And, you know, I just think that we can always talk about it.
Anything we can do that improves that, makes it a nicer facility.
Hamilton's also willing to do the same, not quite as fancy as this thing, but they're willing to put up batting cages at Moultrie, yeah, so.
And the best thing I think would be, as John said, donate the money, raise the money, donate the money to the county and the county staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a consensus on that then? But don't they go in?
Well, we're gonna talk.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead and talk about it, see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little
To
stunning.
answer-
Prices.
I mean, obviously, this is gonna get caught up in the request for these funds. But looking at the SPOS just real quickly, I mean, the Pate Park funds, we did expend all of those, did not overexpend or underexpend in the 99 SPOS. In the 2004 SPOS, Pate Park was in there for $600,000. It shows that we have about $281,000 left. I don't see Pate Park. Pate Park didn't specifically appear in the 2009, but recreation did.
I think it was for that reason,
Either or,
either
but,
recreation area.
and I think it's just about spent, so, and then, in the 2014 SPOS, again, I think, let's see, did we do the same thing there?
The very last, almost before the debt reduction. included
Where's the county recreation?
$1 million for construction renovation and rec facilities and equipment.
Okay, county requisite, all right, which we haven't spent all of that either. So I think it's safe to say we can go ahead and make the expenditures and pay the park, but we need to identify what they're gonna be now based on this citizen group that's willing to do something. So I would say, we do need to then get that group and John and, well, let Becky, whether you want to do that or not, but just to begin the discussions. So we
Test some water from see.
see, all right, and see where we do it. Yeah, time is of the essence, I think, in that one.
Correct.
My priority is the football field in the back, because, you know.
Yeah.
We actually had 25 ball games back there this past fall because of, you know, the overcrowdedness. We're gaining in all our youth sports as far as numbers, so we only have a restroom back there, and we have some.
And I think we ought to be able to answer certainly the football portion of that.
Yeah, that's.
Fairly quickly. I mean, and so we could get moving on that, it won't interrupt anything that's going on, we can get it.
And also the playground if possible.
And, yeah,
But the
let's-
football would be your
Yes, sir.
priority, wouldn't it?
I think the only thing we would hold up on would be the baseball thing pending the discussion
Yeah.
here, and then we can move ahead on the other.
And I've got several letters out to different businesses trying to get them to donate the scoreboard for us, but they're advertising on the top, so
Okay,
I'll wait and see what they do.
all right,
Thank you.
good enough. Okay, well, I'm glad we had this. I think we can move ahead and at least begin to do some of these things. Greg knows the other information that we're looking for. But certainly the 99 splosh, we ought to be able to close that out. Let's see where we are, do what we can do, and with Mr. Taylor's guidance, we can come through with that. Okay?
All this, reason John came out and John kept trying to call me is apparently there's been some glitch as far as coordination between the schools, Harris County schools and the C-54 folks tomorrow. So anybody in Harris County has school-age kids, tomorrow bring them to the airport at 10 o'clock and we'll drop candy on them at 11. So.
Okay. All right.
So
Okay.
probably got a lot of Columbus kids.
All right, well, we will adjourn this work session. If anybody else got anything on these items? Take a couple of minutes before we get started again. All right? Very good.
How are you?